Hi everybody, welcome back to Watercolor Notebook. I'm Pam and I'm so glad that you're here to give this project a try. We're making greeting cards using textured paper and pearlescent watercolors. Here's a set that I made yesterday, and I've used brown craft paper and the textured white paper. It's cotton, I believe. And I made a little set of 3 and tied it up with some rough cording, and I put my business card in the back of it so people can contact me if they'd like to. This is just a little gift set of 3 cards. You can either give these away or you could easily use these at craft shows. I've enjoyed making these cards so much that I thought I would make some different ones and take them to the ACC Craft and Vendor Fair when they have their next one. So that's an idea of what you can do with these cards. This is a paint set that I haven't used in quite a while, and I brought it back out for this project. It's just a little inexpensive palette from Artist Loft, and it's pearlescent watercolors. So we're going to use those. They're not really glittery, but they do have a shimmer to them, and they're just really beautiful for making these cards. So while we are getting ready to use these paints, I'm just going to take my water bottle and spritz all of the pans in the set so that they'll be ready to go. Just moistening those a little bit, and we'll set that aside. The paper we're using is from a company called Black Ink, and it's just a white cotton textured paper. I believe this is hand molded, and you can get this. I'll leave the link in the comments for you to find this paper. You might not be able to get the exact pattern, but you'll be able to find paper that's similar to it that you like, and you can buy it online, or you can go to specialty paper stores around, or even search on Amazon and see what you can find there for textured paper. You might even be able to find some in Michael's or AC Moore in the scrapbooking section of their stores. So that's the paper we're going to be using today, and I'm painting from a reference photo. And these are just little cosmos flowers that we're going to be painting onto the cards. So today our color palette is going to be mostly in the pink side of the palette and some green for the stems. So let's get our palette set up here. I'm using a number 6 round brush from Royal Langnickel, and this is from their Zen brush line. And this is a great brush. It's got a good snap to it, not very expensive, and I tend to go to this brush a lot. I'm really enjoying it. So let's get to painting. And keep my reference close by. All right. So I can paint these 2 at a time since they're small. I'm going to be using the little card and envelope sets that you can find around in the craft stores, and this is a 5x7 card, so I cut my paper to 4.5 by 6.5. You might want to cut a little bit smaller so that you get a larger margin around it when you put it on the card. So I've cut those down and we're ready to paint. So let me grab some pink, and I'm looking at where the texture is on my paper to determine where I'm going to put my flower heads. So I see a little space here on this one where I can pop in just a small one. So I'm laying the color down, and I'm just going to roll my brush a little bit to get a petal shape. And let's load the brush again. This paper is very absorbent, so I usually load my brush for each petal on this one. Okay, it's nice. And one more petal here on this side. Okay. Now let's add a little bit of a peach tone to that color. And let's come down here. And I think on this one down here, I will, let's look and let's do one this way. So this one's going to be tilted upward a little bit. So we'll have maybe 1, 2, 3 petals, and then there's one on the side that will be tilted down a little bit like that. All right, that will do the trick. Let's add a little more orange. Orange and pink are beautiful together on flower petals. So let's do an orange and a pink. And this one up here, let's do an open. Let's go for a more open. The flower head is facing us, so we'll be able to see the center of this one. So we've got one petal on the bottom here, another one on the bottom. We've got a rather large one right here on the top, and then a couple of smaller ones next to it. I'm leaving my center open so I can get that yellow popped in there after everything is dried. And here's this one right here. All right, and then this, I'm going to extend this out just a little bit. It's dropping down a little bit. Okay, so that will do it for my flower heads on that one. And while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead over to my next page. And we've got lots of open space on this one. There isn't quite as much texture on this page as there was on this one. So it's a little bit easier to place our flowers. Let's do a flower like this, where you're seeing a little more of the bottom stem and the little cup part of the flower head, and the petals are really kind of facing away from us. So let's drop in this one. This one's a little thicker. I'm going to add a little bit of pink for this petal. Go, and one more this way. Okay, that will do it for that one. Okay, let's do the open one where you can see the center now. All right, let's do that one right here. One. This one, just if you aim for the bottom of these petals to be toward the center, you really can't go wrong. Okay, there we go. And one more for that one. Let's do one where you really can't see the center, but it's 2 layers of petals. So you're kind of, you're seeing the back side of these petals and the front side of these. So let's try one like that. We've got the ones that the fronts are facing us. And then we have a layer in the front where the back sides are facing us. All right, and that will do it there. So let's take a few minutes and let this dry, and then we'll come back and work on the centers and the under part of our stems. Okay, we're back, and I've cleaned up my daisy palette a little bit and loaded it with sap green and some lemon yellow. So I'll start with the sap green and we'll put our stems in first. The flower heads are not completely dry, but they're dry enough that I can put my stems in, and the colors will only blend together and bleed together just a little bit, and that is fine. All right, so let's come right underneath this one, and we're going to put in just a little bit of the cup and come down with a very thin stem. Broken lines here are fine with this textured paper. It's part of the beauty of the paper, so don't fuss with that. And let's come just here. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space on this one. And very light touch here because this paper is so absorbent that it will very quickly pull that paint from the brush. All right, and then this one here, come around this way just a little bit. Okay, let's put in a few indications of leaves. This is going to be very abstract. I decided I wanted these leaves to be very wispy because the texture on the paper is so delicate. I didn't want to go with any heavy leaves. So let's just indicate some leaves with some very fine line work. And I actually think that's going to be enough right there. I'm going to add one little indication of a little leaf under the flower head there. And I think that is going to be about it. There's so much texture on this paper, on this side, that I don't want to overdo it and get too heavy with it. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to pull a little bit of my orange and darken up the inside bottom part of these petals just a little bit. And I have some brown and black mixed here. So I'm going to go in and just drop in a little bit of that for the inside of that flower head, for the center there. And I'm going to very lightly do the same thing on this one. Okay, we don't have it on this one because we're looking at the underside of these petals, so we really don't want to, we don't see any in the center. I'm just going to darken up that cup just a little bit, and we're going to leave that one alone until it completely dries. I may put in a little bit of yellow in this center here, but we're going to wait and see. Maybe not. I may just use the yellow for the background on that one. Okay, so let's come over here, put our stems in. Okay, for this one, I'm not sure I'm going to put a cup on this one yet, so let's go ahead and put the stem in. There's a little hide and seek. Now you see it, now you don't. Pick it back up on this side. And on this one, let's just put a stem coming straight down that way. And on this one, let's cross over a little bit. There we go. And I think I do want a little bit of a cup on this top one. Very light touches on this. Remember, the paper will grab that paint. Okay, and let's do some. On this one I'm going to do more of a realistic leaf because there's not quite as much texture on this side. Just putting in leaf shapes, I'm not fussing. And I need some balance, so I'm going to come up top here and just put some abstract line on the top. Okay. Come in here, darken up the center. I want to try to leave the white areas white and not cover those up. There we go. And when this all dries, I may go back in with some line work using a micron pen. But it needs to be completely dry in order to do that. All right, so let's go back to our Zen brush and just put in a little bit of yellow in the background. So I'm going to get a very, very, very wet brush with just a tiny bit of pigment on it. And I'm going to kind of come across the center of my painting. So let's start in the corners and work across. Okay, skipping around. Not filling in every white space, just kind of hit and miss. You're just trying to add some brightness. Okay. Kind of like it down here and with the green. So we'll go a little heavier in this area. Okay. And let's stop there. And come over to the other side. Now this has a much more texture, so I'm going to avoid the textured areas and get some yellow in on the areas that don't have those cotton fibers, that 3D cotton fiber effect there. So let's come down here. Okay, so wherever it is pleasing to your eye. Okay, so let's let that dry. And remember, watercolor always dries later than it looks when it's wet. So let's let that dry, and then we'll come back and assemble the cards. Okay, we're back, and as the paintings have been drying, I'm looking, and I think that I do want to add a little bit of line work. So I'm using a number 01 micron black Pigma pen. This is a permanent marker. You can use other pens, but just make sure that they're permanent and not water-based, so that they don't bleed and run on your card. And this is archival ink as well. So these are nice pens. I'll leave a link in the comments for you to find these pens, as well as the other materials here. So what I'm doing here is just kind of outlining, but I want it to be very loose and free, so I'm not outlining every petal, but just parts of some of the petals, so that it will help your eye find these shapes. Okay, so I'm just very loosely going around, and I'm not even staying on the edge of these petals. It's just very free and loose. Okay, defining some of those edges, and then I want to come into some of the stems as well, and just help your eye find. I tend to stay where the darkest values are, and as the values get lighter and lighter, I won't outline those so much. Okay, and that's all. We're not too much. And we'll come over and just do a little bit on the other one. Okay. Okay, the next step is to take the tape off. It helps if you pull away from the painting instead of toward it. Okay, so these are very pretty little cards. Okay, I don't know if you can see this on the video, but there is a shimmer to this paint. Very nice. Okay, so we are using little card sets. These are 5x7s, and they're from a company called Reflections. And I will leave the link for you. So they're just blank card and envelope sets. And I have a little butterfly stamp that I like to stamp the back of my cards with and then sign on the back. Sometimes I will sign the painting and the back of the card, but because this has so much texture where I would normally put my signature, I'm not going to sign the front of the card on this one. So very easy assembly. I'm using an Elmer's glue stick. We'll turn the painting over. Make sure we've got the card oriented in the right direction. And take our glue stick, cover the entire surface of the back of the card, catching all the edges and corners particularly. You can use whatever kind of glue you have. I find a glue stick is just faster and easier than trying to paint on other glues from a bottle. So let's turn the board over just so that I don't get any glue on the front of my card. I'm looking at the corners on the top to get the corners centered. Once they're centered, I can come and look at the bottom and center those bottom corners. If the corners are centered, the rest of your card will be fine. Okay, so turn it over and use a bone folder just to press down and make sure that all the glue is catching. Corners and edges are the most important here. Okay, so here's our card, and the glue is still a little bit wet, so normally what I will do is put it in side of a heavy book. Dictionaries work really well, and as the glue dries, it will make your card dry flat. So we'll let that card dry a little bit, and then I will come back and show you how I make a pretty little gift package out of a set of these cards. So once I get a nice pack of 3 cards together, I put them in cellophane display bags, and in the last bag I slip in one of my business cards, and I try to find some matching raffia. Just wrap it around a few times. Tie a nice little bow. And there you have a nice gift pack of cards to give to someone. Or even take to a craft fair. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please remember to hit follow or subscribe, and be sure to give us a thumbs up, like, or share. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.